hope everybody can see my screen. I've got a blank chart up of the SPX just so we can get started. Some people may not know where to find Ichimoku and how to set it up. So we just go to Studies, and we get the drop down. We can get into Ichimoku several different ways. We can add all studies, and then we can go to, and I'm sorry, but WebEx just is kind of slow on a lot of computers. And we can go to the eyes, and we can find Ichimoku on the eyes down here, and click it and get in there. It's the easiest way, I think, to do it is I just like to go to Edit Studies, and then the search box, I just start typing in Ichimoku. And it'll pop up, and then double click, and you've added the study, and click OK to save it. Now, what I like to do before I get going on the study is I like to expand the width of the Tenkan-sen, the Kaijin-sen, and the Chinku-span, and we'll see this in a second, and I'll explain what each one is. And we'll throw Ichimoku up on the screen. Now, at first, Ichimoku looks to be very intimidating because you see a bunch of squiggly lines. You see this this cloud thingy and everything else. But really, once you get used to it, it really tells you a lot of things. Ichimoku Kinku Hayu stands for equilibrium at a glance. It is a trend trading indicator. And we all know that we have regression to the mean in most tickers. So this system was developed actually by a newspaper reporter after World War II, and he used 10,000 college students as his computer to work out the whole system. L Trader has no audio. Just a second.
L Trader.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if he gets in and can hear, and we'll try and catch him up. So Ichimoku stands for equilibrium at a glance, and the system or the indicator is really slick because it gives you the past, present, and the future. So let's break down each indicator and see what it tells us and how it's formed. So we're just going to edit the studies, and I'm going to start out by displaying just the Kumo or the cloud. Oops. I want to show the study. I don't want to show the plot. Okay, so the heart of Ichimoku is the Kumo, or the cloud. And the cloud is formed by two trend lines, so to speak, or moving averages. Span A, which is the white line, and span B, which is the yellow line. Span A is the average of the Tenkan-sen and the Kaizen-sen, which I'll explain in a little bit. Span B is a 52-day moving average. Now, the moving averages in Ichimoku are figured a little bit differently than the moving averages that we are used to. Ichimoku takes the average of the past 52 periods or 52 candles and then makes that the moving average. The span A is about an 18 period moving average if you figure it all out or can figure it all out. But again, it's the average of between the Tenkan-sen and the Kaizen-sen. Now, if you look at price action, if it's above the Kumo, right, as we can see here, it's bullish. If it's below the Kumo, it's bearish. So just instantly by looking at where price is in relation to the Kumo or the cloud, you can tell whether SPX in this case is bullish or bearish. Now, the leading Kumo and these moving averages are projected 26 days into the future. So when you set up your chart, you want to make sure that you expand the area out and the time axis to show 26 periods to the right of price action. Okay, so how do we use the Kumo? The Kumo is a trading system into itself. So if you have a Kumo breakout, let's see if we can expand this out to over a year so we can show a Kumo breakout. We may not have that to the bullish side, but we'll see real quick. We did have. So if price action breaks above the Kumo, if that's a trade entry into itself, again, as well as if price action breaks below the Kumo, that would be either a bullish exit or a bearish entry. Another trading system that involves the Kumo is called a Kumo twist. That's where span A goes below span B and goes bearish, or span A goes above span B to go bullish. Now remember, the Kumo is projected 26 periods in the future of the current price action. So we had a bullish Kumo twist here. So this was this candle probably right around here. That broke out above the Kumo. So two trading ways to trade the Kumo: Kumo twist or Kumo breakout, which is above or below the Kumo. Now, when price action is inside the Kumo, it's considered neutral. Below the Kumo, again, bearish; above the Kumo, bullish. What will happen a lot of times, as you can see here, is price broke into the Kumo, and back here broke into the Kumo. But in this case, span A acted as resistance until there was enough momentum for a Kumo breakout. Same in this case. It paused momentarily. Span A was acting as resistance. Conversely, if it's inside the Kumo, a lot of times if it's broken in from a bullish position to a bearish position, span B will act as support, span A will act as resistance, and it can bounce around inside this Kumo from some period of time and be in neutral territory. So that's basically the Kumo at a glance, and how you would use the Kumo, and how you could immediately determine where price action is bullish, bearish, or neutral. So let's take a look at what the past is, and then we'll go to the present, and then we'll go to the future. So we're going to go back in, and I'm going to edit my study, and I'm going to bring up the Ichimoku span. Okay, the Ichimoku span is this goofy line that seems to be always behind price action. And we're going to zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. So this is actually current price projected 26 periods in the arrears. Just a second, I'll be right back. I'm sorry. And they needed to ask me some questions. Okay, Ichimoku span. Chinku span is also referred to as the lagging line. Its current price action, closing price, so this is the closing price here, projected 26 periods in the arrears. Now what the Chinku span is really great for is detecting patterns. We had price action kind of moving up here. It formed what? Kind of an M pattern. All right, that's here. So if it broke support here of this M, as we learned from DJ, an M pattern and kind of a bullish trend as it's starting to move back up, that's a break of support. And what did it do? It broke back down, and then it kind of formed a V bottom here and shot right back up. So it's real easy to pick up patterns on the Chinku span. Let's expand things back out again and look for some more patterns. So we can look here, zoom in on the Chinku span. What did we have? We had an M top. Boom, it failed. Price action, again, it's projected 26 periods in the arrears, so I got to move forward here a little bit. 26, too far. I'm sorry, but WebEx sometimes really kind of jumps around. So if we look here, we can see that the closing price, this is our M top right here, and it broke down below and fulfilled the downward trend. So, you know, Chinku span again is very handy for determining patterns and watching for patterns for a change in direction. Now, when the Chinku span is above price action, it's an indication that we're bullish. Now remember, this is 26 periods in the arrears, so it's these candles here that are above price action. When it is inside of the price action like it is now, we're neutral. We're not sure which way the trend's going to go. And also, if it's inside the Kumo and inside price action, that's, again, a further confirmation that price action is right now kind of neutral. We're not sure which direction it'll really take. If price action is below, or the Chinku span is below price action, it's bearish, even though it's above the Kumo. As long as it's below price action, it's an indication that we could be entering into a bearish trend. It has to confirm again by breaking lower. Okay, so let's add the present in. And we'll talk about the other indicators. And we'll start with the Kijun Sen. Okay, the Kijun Sen is the salmon line, and it is basically a 26 period moving average. And it's based on the past 26 candles. And again, it's based on the average price of the past 26 candles, not the closing price. Now, a flat span B and a flat Kijun Sen are very important because they tend to act as magnets to draw price action towards it or towards equilibrium. We can see that in the past, span B has acted as support. The Kijun Sen has acted as support. It's acted as basically a support area, and it also can act as resistance. So again, this is a pretty powerful indicator. This is a present indicator, and it is very strong, especially if it's flat, for drawing price back towards it. Let's add the Tenkan Sen. Okay, now the Tenkan Sen is a 9-period moving average. So again, you can see this is a multiple moving average trading system. It works real good in a trend, doesn't work real good when we're chopping around, except to kind of give you an indicator that Okay, we're range bound, as we can see by the candle levels, and it's going to chop sideways and chop around. Okay. The Tenkan Sen, when we have a Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross, it's bullish. If we have a Tenkan Sen cross below the Kumo, it tends to be a very good indicator of change in direction of price. Also the same if it's above the Kumo. If price action breaks down below the Tenkan Sen, it's a very good indicator that we've had a change in direction. And then a confirmation, again, is here we have what they call a weak bearish Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross because it occurred above the Kumo and is bearish. If it occurred below the Kumo, it would be a strong bearish Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross, and we could expect a further downtrend. We had a Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross inside the Kumo. That's considered a neutral. And we're not sure what the direction is going to go. And as we can see, we kind of chopped around here. Tenkan Sen was acting as resistance as price action chopped sideways. We had a Tenkan Sen break, price breaking above it. We had a weak bullish Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross, which confirmed the change in direction, followed very quickly by a Kumo breakout. And here we go. Now, we've got right here a bearish Tenkan Sen Kaijin Sen cross setting up, and it's a strong one because it's below the Kumo, and price action looks like it could be descending below the Kumo. So here we have a possible bearish trend developing. Our immediate support level, our next support level will be having a pullback to the Kaijin Sen. We can see that span B of the Kumo is acting as support at this present time. So we can look for the next support level to be the span A, followed by the Tenkan Sen and Kaijin Sen right in this area cross, and it's reinforced by this span B on the leading Kumo. Now let's zoom out so we can talk a little bit about what the leading Kumo tells us. Now the leading Kumo right now, we have a Kumo twist setting up. If we zoom into an area, and this we'll just use as an example, and we're going to pretend that price hasn't gotten all the way out here. If the leading Kumo is wide, it's an indication that historical volatility is high. And we know that volatility is comprised of both historical and implied volatility. So if we have a wide leading Kumo way out here on the far end, that will be an indication the volatility or our VIX is low. When we zoom out here, as we have a twist forming, we see that the Kumo is narrowing. So what happens is the VIX starts to pop up. So instantly we can take a look and we can at the leading Kumo, and we can see it's very narrow. So it's an indication to us that we're going to have an increase in the VIX. It doesn't tell you what the VIX is going to be, but it's an indication that the VIX is increasing as the leading Kumo narrows. Does that, if anybody has any questions, please leap in. So various ways of trading the Ichimoku are, so I explained the Kumo breakout, and let's zoom back out and we'll select a smaller time scale so that we can see some things a little bit better. Oops. We'll go to 6-month daily. Okay, so there's several ways of trading this, and each one is consecutively more aggressive. We said the most conservative way is a Kumo breakout or a Kumo twist. The next most conservative way is Chinku span breaking above or below price action. You can enter a trade using the Chinku span, which again is our lagging line. It's more conservative, you're going to be behind. The most aggressive, more aggressive entry would be go bearish or bullish with a Tenkan-sen Kaijin-sen cross. So when you see a Tenkan-sen Kaijin-sen cross here, we'd be going bearish. Of course, we could always see before that the trend has already started to go bearish. And again, if we have a Tenkan-sen Kaijin-sen cross here, that's an indication of going bullish. Of course, we didn't stay bullish very long and rolled over. The most aggressive entry for trading Ichimoku is if we have price action crossing the Tenkan-sen, either in a bullish trend or in a bearish trend, because the Tenkan-sen will tend to act as support for the price. So if we have a bullish Tenkan-sen break, what we'd use is the Kaijin-sen as our stop, and or we trail our stop just below the Tenkan-sen as it's going up, so it gets us out, with a trend change. So that's kind of how you trade it. Just looking at Ichimoku right now, I'm saying, okay, we're neutral. We're sitting on top of span B. We could get a bounce tomorrow. However, Tenkan-sen is setting up a bearish Tenkan-sen Kaijin-sen cross, which could pull price action down through it. We have a very narrow Kumo here, so it's not going to act as a lot of resistance, but we do have a nice support area right here with leading Kumo span B and the Kaijin-sen, so that forms a little bit of an area right in that area. Now, you can look up here and you can see exactly, you place your cursor at price, and it will tell you the exact levels of what the Tenkan-sen is, the Kaijin-sen is, span A, span B, and the Chinku span. So that will help you out there. Very simple system. You just kind of have to get used to looking at it. I love it when I kind of add support and resistance to it. So, you can draw various support and resistance levels. The Chinku span is great for determining those. So if we do some price levels, if we find a support area, we can just shoot that across. Here's another support area or level, and it matches up with some stuff. Again, Chinku span has already shown us where various support and resistance levels are. So we can kind of match up, and we can see where various support and resistance levels are just by pulling them off the Chinku span. We don't have to say, okay, but it's based on closing prices vice wicks. So you got to remember that. Do I have any questions so far? So please just unmute yourself and don't hesitate to ask. So that's how you can determine support and resistance. You can also actually, another thing, a way of doing it is you can use your Fibonacci tool, fib retracements, and say you just throw a fib on from here to there, and you've got support and resistance levels, and you can see how closely it matches up. For instance, the Kaijin-sen was a 50% retracement on this. So it's a quick way of doing it. Again, that's this point right here is our low. If we used those lows and highs here, we could see that we'd still be very, very close. It matches up using the tails a lot better, but again, just using the Chinku span to throw a quick fib on, by picking it out, you can get some pretty decent support and resistance levels. I also like to add trend lines to determine our diagonal support and resistance. So, short-term trend line here, and there we go. So, we're not going to break a very big trend downtrend until we get down in this area, which would be right about at the base of this candle here. And that kind of lines up with the future span A. The more correlations you can get with the support and resistance area with Ichimoku indicators, the stronger that support and resistance area can be. So with that, Kathy just joined us. She's a friend of mine that wanted to see this. Do I have any questions? If not, I may just give her a quick private tutorial on Ichimoku. Significance of 26 candles. It basically, Abbott is their version of a 26 period moving average. So instead of saying 26 candles, I should have said 26 periods back for the Kaijin Sen and for the projections forward and aft by the Chinku span and the leading Kumo. And that's just the kind of the way everything worked out. If we pull up any of the Asian stocks, this indicator is primarily used by most of the traders on the Asian exchanges, especially in Japan. If you're trading the US dollar and the Japanese yen, use Ichimoku and it will line up almost exactly to what they're doing. And you can see what they're doing on the other side of the pond. Any other questions? Yes, Alan, the system, Alan's question was, so much of the system foundation is based on moving averages. Yes, it is. And again, the moving averages are computed a little bit differently than we see on a normal trading system, in that they use the average of the past 26 candles or 52 candles, or I shouldn't say candles, I should say periods, because you can use this in any period from 1 minute to 1 month or 1 year or greater. It's a very versatile system, can be used in any time period. The advantage of the moving averages of the other moving average systems is all depends on what you're used to, Alan. This tends to get me in a little quicker than a 1040, gets me out a little quicker than a 1040 moving average, which is very popular. Same with the 2050. I've gotten used to this and I really like it. And it's kind of interesting. Herbert Centers has moved Ichimoku. There's Alan Keene. He trades solely by Ichimoku. Manesh Patel is a big Ichimoku trader. If any of you guys are interested in those guys, you'll see them using Ichimoku almost exclusively now. Any other questions in the chat that I missed? No. If you go back 1 to 2 weeks, how do you evaluate daily action? That's the question from Mike. If you click on everyone, on the drop down in the chat, if you click on everyone, instead of going to me privately, everybody will be able to see your question. So there's just a drop down and you can see, put it, the questions to everybody. Okay, so if we go back 1 to 2 weeks, here is about 2 weeks. Let's zoom it in. Okay, so 2 weeks, we had the price falling. It broke through below the Kaijin Sen, which to me is okay. We've got a little bit of indication of a trend change developing. We also had that confirmed by, we had a spinning top, and then we had a huge bearish engulfing pull down right to span A of the Kumo. We broke through the Tenkan Sen and the Kaijin Sen was tracking along with the Tenkan Sen. So we're inside the Kumo. Now we're in neutral territory. We had a huge Kumo breakout, and we can't see the Kaijin or the Chinku span back that far because we just kind of zoomed into an area. But so we would be bearish here on this Kumo breakout. Actually, would have probably been bearish once we had a break below the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. We'd say, okay, we're about ready to go bearish big time. Span B of the Kumo did not hold as support, so we broke down below it. We can see here that as we moved, as the days, the Tenkan-sen acted as resistance and stayed as resistance until we gained enough momentum to break above. Again, we broke above the Tenkan-sen. The Kijun-sen did not act as resistance, nor did Span B. We had a rapid Kumo breakout with a little bit of pullback with Span A acting as support. Back up again to a doji with a spinning top, followed by a bearish engulfing, a bearish candle. Broke back down again. Here we are. Tenkan-sen did not act as resist or support. However, Span A did. We were below the Tenkan-sen, broke down through the Kijun-sen to another low. We had a hammer for a trend reversal back up above the Kijun-sen, above the Tenkan-sen, Kumo breakout, and here we have Span A acting as support. And if we look back at, say, some past Tenkan-sen levels here, this Tenkan-sen, flat Tenkan-sen, coincided with Span B, which kind of gives me an indication that, okay, this could be a strong support or resistance level. So it broke back down. And again, the Span B acted as resistance. We came back to the Kijun-sen, and if you remember, I said a flat Kijun-sen is strong resistance and will attract price action to it. So we came right back down to the Kijun-sen. It acted as support, and today we had a bounce back up. We had a very thin Kumo for a Kumo breakout, so it easily went past and pulled right back down to Span B, which is flat and which acted as support. So is there any other questions on that? Did I cover that for you, Mike? And don't hesitate to unmute if you have something that you really want to say. Okay, so that took care of you. Are there any other questions? Oh, okay. Going forward to the day, what is the system projecting? We will go ahead and zoom out so that we can kind of see everything. We see that right in this area, and I'll zoom in, we have the Kijun-sen starting to break above price action. It's inside the Kumo, so it's neutral, but that's an indication of a change of direction back to a bullish direction, okay? And our close was right here. We did have a bullish candle. Now, we have, and this is where we're kind of in a neutral zone here, we have a Kumo twist forming on the leading Kumo, where Span A is trying to cross below Span B. Right now, Span A is slightly above Span B, and we could see that here's Span A, Span B. When we go out to the leading Kumo, that's all that is being shown right now. So the Kumo twist hasn't quite formed. If it does form, that's again a bearish indication. We could see price dropping down below this thin Kumo here into kind of a bearish area. The flat Kijun-sen again can attract price action towards it if Span B doesn't hold. Now Span B is generally stronger than the Kijun-sen, so I'm hoping, and we'll see what happens tomorrow if we get a bounce off Span B back towards the bullish, as we have a bullish hook on the Chinku span right here that I showed you just a few minutes ago. Does that help you, Alan?
Hi, it's Alan. Hopefully you can hear me. So the Chinku span, is that the leading indicator in a sense? Does that take precedence over the, and forgive my pronunciation, but basically the clouds that are twisting looking forward to 26 periods? I'm not sure.
Well, what now? Here, Alan, the Chinku span is current closing price projected 26 periods in the arrears. Now, it's very good for detecting patterns that are forming. Now, we've got a bullish hook. If it hooks up, it's bullish. If it hooks down, it's bearish, okay? So it gives us kind of a quick indication that, all right, trend may, and I say may be changing. You can see back here, we had a bearish hook and immediately went bullish again. So, you know, I kind of look at this and say, okay, we may have a pattern, a bullish pattern or a bullish trend starting to develop. Will it develop? I don't know yet. It's just kind of telling me, okay, we closed above, you know, the the previous close of the you know, the last candle, so it hooked up. Can we continue an uptrend? I'm not sure. We got to see if we're going to get a bounce off of span B right here on the Kumo. Does that help you?
Sure, but the twist, you had mentioned the twist
Okay.
that's occurring as
Yeah.
well. It seemed like there was one of the indicators is more bullish, the other one is more bearish.
That's why I said I'm a little bit neutral.
Yep.
Because now this is essentially span A is, if we overlaid it, it would be about an 18 period moving average. Span
Right.
B is a 52 period moving average.
Yep.
So, you know, or equivalent to it. It's not quite the same as what we'd use it with closing prices. So span A is still slightly above span B. If we looked up here, when I moved it over there, it's at 88.65, and span B is 20.8842. So we haven't had a Kumo twist developed, but, you know, we can see that it's kind of starting to bend down. There's a possibility it could develop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very narrow, so that to me says implied volatility is high in this, you know, and that's a relative term. You know, if we looked at the VIX, we could see what the VIX was doing, but it's just saying, okay, historical volatility is low. That tells me implied volatility is increased. Okay, it doesn't give me a value.
Right.
So if that's rolling over, that's saying, okay, VIX is going up, and probably did today if we took a look at it. And we have a candle at support right here. It's a support on span B of the Kumo. And if we travel back on span B, see if there's any correlations, we have a Kijun Sen, flat Kijun Sen back here, which lends credence to that this was a past support level. So, you know, and we know that past support levels can lead to current support levels. And we also have a past Tenkan Sen that was previous support very close right in here in this area. So we have decent support here. Can we get a bounce tomorrow? Sure. But then again, we know that we may not get a bounce tomorrow.
Right, right.
You know, because we had a very large topping tail on this candle.
Right.
So
if we wanted to be, this is very tactical in a sense. If we wanted to be more strategic, is the basic philosophy then we're bullish when the candles are above the cloud and we're bearish when the candles are below the cloud. Right now, they're more in a neutral, floating in and out of the cloud, so it's neutral.
We're more or less neutral right now because we have a very thin Kumo, leading Kumos, or Kumo in this area right here where I'm moving my cursor around. Right. So because it's very thin, it doesn't offer a tremendous amount of support or resistance. And we are in kind of a sideways trend for the past week. We got a bounce and a pullback today. So, you know, just looking roughly at candle action, yeah, we're kind of neutral. We're at a support area. We've got future, you know, support right down below it here at the Kijun Sen at 2088.42. And we've got another span B of the leading Kumo at 2089.37. So we've got another strong support area between the leading Kumo span B and the current Kijun Sen. So if we do get a drop, it's probably going to pull right back down to that area, which is about, where this candle is as well, yesterday's candle. So, we could come down here and bounce again. Again, we've got a pretty thin Kumo, and we have a flat span B. So we could come down and we could bounce between the Kaijin Sen and span B. It depends on what the momentum of price action is.
Right. Okay. Okay. So do you rely then more on price action first and this system second in terms of making your trades? Then price action being the leading.
Price action is always king.
Right. Exactly.
Price action is always king. But I've got a weak bearish Tenkan-sen Kaijin Sen cross forming, which to me says, okay, if this completes, then we could roll back over and start seeing a bit of a bearish trend forming as price action pulls below the Kumo, and the Tenkan-sen would probably be acting as support until we had price gain enough momentum to break through it.
Okay.
And hopefully, with the flat Kaijin Sen, if the Tenkan-sen breaks below, then this will be a strong enough support area to get a bounce and pull the Tenkan-sen back up.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, I make it look so simple, Gail. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was very intimidated by this system when I first pulled up. I went, God, what do all these lines mean? But once you break it apart and you kind of understand what each one does, it really, you can just look at it at a glance and say, okay, what's this thing doing? Everybody was talking a little bit about Apple today, so let's throw Apple up. Did I just and see what it says it's doing on the on a quick chart. The thing I hate about WebEx is it really kind of slow. Whoa, hello Apple. Okay. We kind of tanked today, didn't we? Here we were above the Kumo, we gapped down, and I mean, it blew right through everything. And we can see that it kept coming down, and the Tenkan-sen's been acted as resistance, preventing a pop-up. We do have a bullish hook on the Chinku span, and that coincides with price kind of hitting a support area. If we look way back here, see where span B is on this leading Kumo that this Kumo just highlighted. If you can find correlations and look, it came right down to that exact level, 112.13, and it says it's 112.19, but that's a pretty good support area. And closing price, well, that's the Kaijin Sen and a past span B that it closely correlates to. And here's a span A, which closely correlates to where it pulled back to. So you can use the Kumo, and if you've got good flat span Bs, or well, we had a span A point right here that kind of if we follow the price across right here and back to that span A, it was very close correlation along with that flat Kaijin Sen. So again, if you kind of look backwards, you can see if when price is moving down, you can see very potential support areas by just moving your cursor along the Kumo, moving your cursor along the Tenkan-sen or Kaijin Sen. Wow, look at this. Here, flat Tenkan-sen way back here, and closing price was right at it. And same with this Chinku span low right here. So really good for picking out support and resistance levels. If we go back, here's the Kaijin Sen that correlates with the span B. What did it act as? It acted as support right here. And again, you can look to the future. You can see here future span B. What was it? It was a support right here, and it was also past support if you go back along it. Same with the future span A. Again, it can identify support and resistance levels. This doesn't really have a good past support and resistance levels. But what I do is if I've got a downtrend going, I'm looking to past areas on the Kumo, especially a flat span B. I'm looking at past areas on the Kijun Sen, especially a flat Kijun Sen, and I'm looking for correlations. If I have something correlate where I've got a span A here, a span B, and it's at support, hello, I've got a good strong support level that I could get a bounce from. Conversely, if price comes up, where's our next resistance level? Well, it'd be right here at the Tenkan Sen. Look what we've got back here. We've got a flat span B that on a past Kumo that forms a resistance area. So this could come back up, and this would be resistance. The next resistance level I look to would be the leading Kumo, span A, followed by the leading Kumo, span B. And if I had a flat, and I've got a flat Kijun Sen, and I've got a flat span B behind it, that was previous support, and it could now very well be our next resistance level, followed by the Kijun Sen, which would be another resistance level. And we can look back when I put it on the Kijun Sen, where it is currently, we can see that it acted as a past support level as price action followed through. So you can see where you can get all sorts of information just looking at this thing at a glance. Another thing you can do, and I will pull this back up to SPX. And I'm going to show you another trick that's kind of interesting. And I'm going to go to another grid. And if I can get this. All right, since most of us enter our trades let's see, I'm going to do a swing trade time frame analysis. Let's see if I got the right charts come up. If it'll load, I'm sorry that WebEx tends to slow TOS way down. Yeah, we just have to be patient. Sorry, folks. There we go. I don't know why this is showing trades. No, where the heck do I turn off show trades? Huh. Oh well, I'll figure it out later. Okay, we can do what's known as a time frame analysis. Now, a lot of times we look at well, this is 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour. We make a lot of our trading decisions based on 15-minute charts. So that's a different grid. Let's. I'm sorry. We'll do this again. Hopefully it'll load a little quicker. And it's not. I'm trying to collect garbage and see if I speed it up, but that's not working either. Appreciate folks being patient. This is the one thing I hate about WebEx. There we go. We're filling it in now. I hope. Well, that worked out real good. We'll try it again. Sometimes you just can't win. Patience. This is kind of frustrating at times. You've got to admit, but we'll get there. Okay, there we are. And let's just get rid of some stuff. And we're just going to remove all the drawings. Okay, now, since we do a lot of looking at the 15-minute chart on for ES on the shadow trader grid, to look at market internals. And, we kind of tend to make trading decisions based upon that. So what I do is I do what I know is time frame analysis. And I look at a couple of time periods below and a couple of time periods above. So what I'm looking for, and I'll just draw some lines, is let's get price level. Okay. And I'm looking for a flat span B below price action or above price action, a flat Kaijin Sen, and a flat Tenkan Sen. Well, let's just do that real quick here. We're going to throw a price level out. And the Kaijin Sen was at 93.88, or span B 93.98. So I'm just going to make this a yellow dash line so we can see across. Oh, was that 98? 88. And we'll take the Kaijin Sen, we'll do the same. And that was at 94.25. We'll make that a salmon line. And then the Tenkan Sen, okay. I wanted to do that anyway on the rest of them. Tenkan Sen was at 94.75. I'll make that the blue line, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. Appreciate your patience. Okay, so what we did is we picked those particular levels, and what we're looking for when we look at it is strong correlations both on the leading Kumo and on past price action, such as trying to find a correlation between a past Tenkan Sen or past Kaijin Sen or past span B. So if we look here, we took this Kaijin Sen or Tenkan Sen level, and it equated to a past Kaijin Sen, or a future Kaijin Sen, I'm sorry, here from the level that we took back here. So it equated future Tenkan Sen. It also equates to a future span A, also equates to a future span B. So we've got a strong support level here. If we go back, does it correlate to anything in the back? A past Kaijin Sen. So that gives us a strong support level. So we look at the Tenkan Sen, we see the same thing. Future Tenkan Sen closely correlates to future span A, future span A. And if we go back, do we have any correlations back? No. Look at span B. Do we have any correlations in the future? Yes, a future span B. We come back, past Tenkan Sen, come back. Closely correlates to past Kaijin Sen. So we've got a very strong support and resistance area, and price action is right in the middle of it. So let's go ahead and restore the cells and look what we have back behind us. We want to look at a 5-minute chart and a 1-minute chart. Do we have any correlations back here that we can look at and say, okay, what's this doing for us? Wow, span B has acted as support. Support. You know, does it correlate with anything? Nothing in the future. Closely correlates with the past Tenkan Sen. You know, we do the same thing for each price level. Here we have the Kaijin Sen projected back, correlates with the past Kaijin Sen, is acting as resistance. What do we have? A Tenkan Sen projected back, span A, acted as resistance. Correlates closely with past span B and past Kaijin Sen. So we've got strong resistance right in this area on the 5-minute chart. Look back at the 1-minute chart. What do we have? Wow. We've got a strong support and resistance area between span B and the projected Tenkan Sen. Do we have correlations? Closely correlates with the future span A. May correlate with the future span A. Acted as a strong support level on the Kaijin Sen in the past. Look at here. It lined up with the past Kaijin Sen support level. And again, so I'm looking for correlations and what looks strongest to me. Now, I'll go a couple of time periods in the future. So we're going to look at a 30-minute chart. Do we have any correlations? Yeah, Kaijin Sen correlates with span B, future span B, strongly. Tenkan-sen correlates with the current Tenkan-sen, closely correlates with the Kaijin past projected Kaijin-sen, current or past Kaijin-sen, and projected Kaijin-sen. Acted as support back in the back, acted as resistance up in here. Yeah, I got strong support and resistance in the past. So to me, this is a strong support and resistance area that I want to look at. Can we get a bounce? Man, price is sitting right on span B and that projected Kaijin-sen. Yeah, one may be forthcoming. Where's our Chinku span on the 2 or 30-minute chart? Yeah, it's in price action, slight downtrend. We did have a spinning top out here. So yeah, well, on the 2-hour chart, that's kind of interesting. Let's look at the 1 hour, 30-minute chart. Let's look at the 1 minute or 1 hour chart. Correlations out here. Span B correlates with the span A. Correlates with past Kaijin-sen. Acted as support. Acted as support, acted as resistance. We look at the various projections on the Tenkan-sen and Kaijin-sen, and it can say, oh, wow, we've got some strong support and resistance area right here. Look at the Tenkan-sen correlating with the past Kaijin-sen, or the projected Tenkan-sen with the past Kaijin-sen here. Acted as support and resistance back here in the past. Correlates with the future span A on the Tenkan-sen. So, as I look at each one of these charts, it really reinforces what I'm seeing on a strong support and resistance area. Again, right here, we see this on the 2-hour chart. Interesting thing about the 2-hour chart, we've had a bullish Kumo twist moving up. We've got a rising Kaijin-sen. We've got a Tenkan-sen starting to trend up. Chinku span is still trending down. But again, we've got a strong support area right here. So, I'm kind of thinking, okay, we've got a lot of support right in this area. I got a rising Kaijin-sen on the 2-hour chart. I've got a rising span A on the leading Kumo. Could we get a bounce? I think we may possibly get a bounce in the morning. So that's how we would do a time frame analysis based on what we were trading. I pick a chart that we probably look at a lot, especially since we look at ES on the 15-minute chart on the shadow trader grid. And, we can pull that up and you can see, hang on, wrong. Of course, this is going to take forever. Sorry. Got to be patient again. Oh, we're slowly getting there. At least we got a Thinkorswim logo. One of them. This is the only bad thing with a WebEx on multiple screen computer. Here we go. All right. So if we maximize the sell on Shadow Trader and go to our 15-minute chart, again, we can take a look and see what it's doing here. Again, we got a strong support and resistance area right here. And we've projected it. In case some of you don't use TPO profile, this is a pretty slick deal. This is volume. And areas of trading volume. These are called high value areas. So you can see where the most trading volume is. You can draw yourself a price level across it, and price tends to move from one high volume area to another high volume area. So we see we got a breakdown here. It moved down to this high volume area, down to the bottom right here of this high volume area. So you can kind of see where price is going. This is the top of the value area. These are pivot points, by the way. Most of you know that. Top of the value area, bottom of the value area, and let me hide the pivot points. We can see what our trading range could be tomorrow if we're looking at the pivot points, and it's just right on top of the pivot point for tomorrow. It's open, but let me hide pivot points. Okay, so this is the TPO profile. This is the point of control, or the POC, and this is the bottom of the value area. This was the high, and the low of the day was also right at the bottom of the value area. Now, how you can use this is if price action breaks from below above the bottom of the value area and stays there for at least a half an hour, you've got an 80% chance that price will track to the top of the value area. Conversely, if price is above the top of the value area, and it breaks in and holds in there for at least 30 minutes, you have an 80% chance of it going all the way back down to the bottom of the value area. Once it breaks above the POC, that's a real good indication that it's going to continue to move up to the top of the value area. So that's how you'd use the TPO profile and how Shadow Trader uses it. I've thrown a lot of stuff at you guys. Any questions? Any more questions? Well, if not, Kathy, did you want to hang around and I'll break down Ichimoku for you and show you what I showed everybody else earlier? I just unmuted you so you could talk. Did you want to hang around and see the breakdown?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All righty. That's it for what I got to show everybody. Any questions you got on or anything, please, when we're in the chat, don't hesitate to ask me. If you want me to throw up a time frame analysis for the day on Ichimoku for what we're doing on SPX, I'll be more than happy to do it. Just ask me and I'll throw it up there. But other than that, that's it. So everybody can go their way, and I'll just help Kathy out real quick, and we'll go from there.